for our government just to say, okay, well, your debt is completely forgiven. Obviously, they have an agenda for that. They need votes in November. So the timing is a pure coincidence there as well. But it's completely unfair.
Completely unfair that maybe Marjorie Taylor Greene, as the White House tweeted, had $183,000+ in PPP loans forgiven. She doesn't have to pay that money back to the government. Makes sense. I'm sure her base will make excuses for her why that's okay. Let's watch some more.
It is immoral, and they're not going to get the political payoff that they're looking for. They're not going to get the PR spin. They're just going to go through all the policy pain, and they're not going to satisfy the left, and they're not going to satisfy anybody on the right.
Let's reflect on the fact that college used to be free until the mid-60s, and for a while you could work a minimum wage job, pay your tuition and rent, and be just fine. I think what is immoral, maybe, is that bankers are now making $400 to $1,000 off of these loans per borrower. There was a timely quote that was shared on Twitter that ended up going viral from Roger Freeman, who was an educational advisor to Nixon in the 70s, also worked on the Reagan campaign, who said, "We are in danger of producing an educated proletariat. That's dynamite. We have to be selective on who we allow to go through higher education." So let's move on and see that since this, the 50 years to follow, we've seen the cost of tuition skyrocket, which is really how those bankers are making so much money off of student loans. And the solution really is to just keep working people out of higher education, because the strategies here of cable news is now to convince people that rich people are the ones benefiting from the cancellation plan, that rich people are the ones with student loan debt. Let's watch.
This really is stealing money from a group of hardworking taxpayers to buy votes from people who are disproportionately wealthier. The very left-leaning Brookings Institute found that 1/3 of all student debt is held by the wealthiest 20% of households in this country.
So just a really quick search will show you that the top 20% of US households means you're earning over $500,000 and above. Biden's student loan debt cancellation plan will not affect anyone earning over $125,000. So some of these are really bad arguments against student loan debt cancellation. Others are just misinformation. Claire McCaskill at MSNBC called it a handout. CNN was running programming asking, how much will this cost you? Will this contribute to inflation? We've got some more details on this and some more videos from cable news this week losing their minds. But first, I want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, so first on the substance of the student debt stuff. So Fox, of course, as usual, carrying water for the rich while pretending to care for the average man. Over 90% of the money is going to people making under $75,000 a year. What rich people? What are you talking about? So they lie about this all the time in every situation. So the IRS, for example, is got all this new money. It's to audit people making above $400,000 a year. And all you ever hear on Fox News is, oh, they're targeting the average man. The average man, maybe to them, somebody making over $400,000 is the average person because they're all so rich, right? So it's the one nonstop lie after lie. The Brookings Institute, well-known liberal organization, maybe neoliberal, right? Just like none of this is, everything you hear on Fox is BS. But the second part of the story is the really interesting part, if you ask me. It's not just Fox News. If it was just Fox News, you go, okay, that's normal, right? That's Tuesday. But it's also CNBC and MSNBC and CNN. So I'll just give you two other ones real quick from MSNBC. Elise Jordan went on there the other day and she says, I'm concerned about it adding to inflation. I don't really understand the timing necessarily, because even politically, what's the bump? What's the point in doing this right now at this specific point? And she goes on and on and on. That's not on Fox. That's on MSNBC. You're trying to help the average person. Nobody on cable news agrees. Well, it's not fair. That's just one person on MSNBC. Well, this morning, here comes Claire McCaskill, well-known corporate Democrat who lost to a Republican in a completely winnable race. She's the expert here. What's she gonna tell us? She's gonna tell us, of course, as all of these cable news pundits are, I'm not sure Biden's policy here works. No, she's not sure about it. People on CNN aren't sure about it. MSNBC, Fox News, all the rich people, they're not sure that you should ever get anything, right? But when the Fed printed $4 trillion and gave it to the top corporations and the top banks in the world, none of them had any concerns at all. All of cable news was quiet and not a mouse stirred in the house.
And I think that we can kind of look at really what's going on here. If we're kind of honest about the parties involved, the reality is that when we have this kind of setup where we are paying off student loans, and especially people who make below $125,000 a year, what we're gonna end up doing is contributing a lot to Black and brown people who have been disenfranchised, who haven't had the generational wealth, and thus have had to take out these student loans and have often been taken advantage of and exploited by these student loan brokers, dealers, et cetera. And so this helps close some of that, even a small amount of that racial wealth gap. And the reality is that the GOP isn't the only one who occupies the field when it comes to racism and classism and not wanting to see other groups necessarily do any bit better. And so when we see CNN, MSNBC, and Fox and all these other outlets, we have to remember that, again, racism isn't just occupied by those who lean to the right, that also there are members of the left who do not want to see other people come up. And also we look at who owns those organizations, and they're generally white people who lean to the right. So I'm not shocked at all when I see CNN, MSNBC, or these outlets that generally say that they are left-leaning engage in this rhetoric and continue to push against the idea of eradicating the student loan debt. I'm not shocked one bit, because I know how our society works, and the fact that people may say that they're left, but they are completely okay with the oppression of people who are Black and brown.
47% of Americans have a 4-year degree. Only 13% have graduate degrees, but 50% of the student loan debt is held by people that have graduate degrees.
I don't mean to disparage people with graduate degrees. I have no graduate degrees. Everybody else in my family has graduate degrees except me, but I'm the most successful. How about that?
I think this is really interesting for a few reasons. Not only does Jesse Waters acknowledge that maybe a graduate degree doesn't guarantee financial success, but we have this idea in the United States that you can be whatever you want to be so long as you work hard. But also he has this idea that it's kind of bad to have debt and have it forgiven to get a graduate degree, which suggests only people who make a ton of money who can afford graduate school tuition should go. So only people who come from elite families should go on to be doctors, lawyers, whatever. That kind of goes against what I'm sure a lot of Fox viewers believe in, right? We're always told if you work hard, you'll be able to do well. It turns out elites kind of want to gatekeep their access to wealth. And so speaking of elites, we also had Jason Furman of the Harvard Kennedy School on the Squawk Box. Let's watch.
It was supposed to be about $250 billion. I thought that was a bad idea. I expressed that. Instead, it's probably about $500 billion.
They're trying to scare people with a big number, with sticker shock. Let's remember that $742 billion in PPP loans were forgiven. The hypocrisy is on full display in mainstream media with this.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you one more from CNN, and I'm gonna go back to Furman. CNN contributor criticizes Biden's plan to forgive student debt, not the best use of taxpayer dollars. Okay. All of the rich agree. No, this money isn't going to me. I don't like it. Okay. So Jason Furman was one of Obama's top economic advisors. Arguably his top economic advisor was Larry Summers. And they both agree. This money's not going to me or any of my rich friends. I don't like it. These are the same people who argued for bailouts for the giant banks. They argue for bailouts for incredibly wealthy people all of the time. And guys, this goes to the most important point. When it comes to the culture wars that divide us, MSNBC and Fox News don't agree at all. And CNN doesn't agree with either one of them. Fight, 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 right? When it comes to economic issues, the thing that they don't want you to focus on, when it helps the average American, they're all united all of a sudden. No, boo! CNBC, MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, they all go, boo! We don't want you to give student debt forgiveness. That doesn't help any of our goddamn sponsors or advertisers or donors or any of our friends. We don't like that. oh, what happened? I thought you guys hated each other. It's weird. You guys all seem to agree on that. And again, when they give away the money from Federal Reserve or anything else, again, MSNBC, Fox, CNN, they all agree. You should give everything to the rich and nothing to the average American. So look, guys, these guys are poisoning the well of democracy. It's not news. It's corporate propaganda.
Yep.
And the fact that older Americans believe that it's real news is what's hurting this country the most.
Absolutely, big time. And I will say about Jesse Waters' little thought that he's the most successful family member, it really depends on how you define successful. Come on, it's like that man's on cable news peddling lies and engaging in all sorts of antics that make me want to keep him at 6 feet or more farther away, because he's just trash. So he really needs to retract that statement, but go ahead.
No, you know what I thought about that, Adrian, real quick?
What?
I thought, like, isn't that amazing that he's throwing everyone in his family under the bus? Like, even if you thought that was your sad definition of success, you're like, oh yeah, I'm better than everyone in my family. Who says that?
Jesse Waters.
Jesse Waters says that. Like a really bad person says that. And yet, like Fox News viewers are like, yeah, he's so evil. I like that guy. He's so immoral. I can't. And by the way, they're part of your family values.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.